Natalie Harp was taken on the secret safety plane when Air Force One was threatened by Iran, and Trump was secretly carried away in a catering cart, Taylor Swift style.
Who's Natalie anyways?
Welcome back to another episode of Concepts of a Pod, and as we are recording this, Jon Ossoff has right-wing media in a tailspin, as the rest of us are all just wondering, who is Natalie?
I wish I didn't know who Natalie was. I'll put it that way.
Yes, and for anyone who isn't terminally online, Natalie is Natalie Harp. She is a young aide to Donald Trump, whose responsibility, I believe, is to sit there and listen to all of his many rambles and transcribe them into the all-caps written truth social posts you know and love.
It all started by her and Biden against their political opponent. Me. Get that out right away.
Sounds like a great job.
I know, right? And I mean, now she's literally writing subscription insider trading content. Is she going to be indicted for that?
I mean, I think everybody in the administration should be indicted, but
yeah,
that's just me. That's just me.
Maybe we'll get some Nuremberg trials one day. Who knows? But
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, anyway, the reason this is all taken off, of course, is that Natalie Harp was one of very few of Trump's staffers who was deemed important enough to be taken on the secret safety plane when it was reported that Air Force One was threatened by Iran, and the entire White House press corps, along with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and a few others, were sent on the threatened plane while Trump was secretly carried away in a catering cart, Taylor Swift style.
Wait, was the plane that was threatened, was that the one that was gifted to him by Qatar?
Actually, I don't think so. I think it was the old Air Force One, because they weren't going to fly the Qatari one out of Turkey anyway, because it wasn't safe enough to fly in the Middle East to begin with.
I don't have words anymore.
We're living in an Onion article.
Who's Natalie anyways?
Yeah. While right-wing media claims that Jon Ossoff and the rest of the Democratic Party are slandering a staffer by saying they're having an affair, I actually do think it is worth at this point to look at what Jon Ossoff actually said that ignited this whole firestorm, and then we'll go from there.
And while the sailors on the Lincoln fight his war, the president sleeps through his meetings. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
Yeah, I don't see anything there about anything other than one of his staffers who he chooses to keep on his closest plane.
We know how conservatives feel about affairs, so we know that they're freaking out about it before it's actually announced so that they can get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's a very, almost Streisand effect here where Jon Ossoff did not say that Trump was having an affair with this woman. He did not defame this woman. He didn't even mention her last name, and if right-wing media wants to carry the torch and do that for us, I think all that really does is show that, quite frankly, Jon Ossoff knows how to get under their skin, which is something that Democrats and I know our supporters have been demanding to see a lot more of. And I think the fact that right-wing media has kind of created a whole narrative of a Trump affair scandal just to get one in on Jon Ossoff, who's, running for Senate, but now very quickly being seen as a 2028 contender for the Democrats. And I think they're scared of him. And I think we should watch a few more clips from that rally that went so viral so we can see just why the Republicans are so scared.
He promised to lower prices on day one. You remember that? I want the president's remaining supporters to hear this because it was all a lie. Under Donald J. Trump, it costs more than ever to stock your fridge, to power your home. Gas is up 30% since inauguration. Coffee, 35%. Ground beef, 23%. They doubled your health insurance premiums and slashed Medicaid to cut taxes for their corporate donors and the ultra-rich. They made you pay more for everything and took us to war on lies and spent most of last year trying to cover up for the world's most famous pedophile while the crook president and his crook family raked in billions.
I don't think you can say it much better than that.
The reason people love Jon Ossoff so much is because he is calling out facts and explaining it to people and speaking to people as if they're not dumb and not patronizing them. That is a huge issue right now in politics with lots of candidates and consultants and volunteers. There's certain parts of the Democratic Party that tend to patronize people more than others, and not going to name names here. But this Ossoff wing of Democrats and liberalism is very, very popular with people because they feel heard and listened to.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's not just us saying that. One of our supporters in New Digital Now's focus group of Democratic donors said recently that, quote, the Dems need to take a lesson from Jon Ossoff. And I mean, I think that video shows us why. I think if a few more of us could talk like that and focus the attacks on all of the blatantly corrupt things that Trump is doing. I mean, he is quite literally not just the worst president we've ever had, but so far beyond the pale of an insult to everything this nation is. And not only that, but on our 250th anniversary, I mean, God, I'm actually sad that I can't be excited about the IndyCar race on the streets of DC this weekend, because that should be a really cool thing, but it's such a monument to Trump's excess. Also, apparently it's going to destroy some art at the Smithsonian's potentially, and they had no regard to the city when they put anything in place. I mean, they had to tear out some bike lanes to pave over for the racetrack just to put bike lanes in after.
We had I think it was a NASCAR race in Chicago a couple years ago, and everyone hated it so much. They're like, please don't do this again. But no, there's no regard for anybody except themselves. And even then, there's like no regard for themselves. Something that me and my fiance use every single day are gas and coffee. And it cost me $72 to fill up my tank the other day.
Don't you drive a Subaru?
I drive a Subaru. I have a 14-gallon tank, and I had a 25 cents off per gallon coupon that I used. Gas was still over $5 a gallon. The coffee beans we used to buy, we like drinking the Starbucks coffee beans. It's the one my fiance prefers to drink, like dark roast or Pike Place. Those used to be, I don't know, $8 or $9, and now those bags are close to $20.
Unbelievable. I mean, I'll admit I don't drink coffee, and I
drink too much.
probably save a lot of money not drinking coffee, but regardless, back to Jon Ossoff. And I do think he is doing a better job messaging the issues Americans are facing, as well as the way that Donald Trump is not only not helping, but going out of his way to make things worse for us just to line his own goddamn pockets.
I think I saw somewhere I don't remember whether it was he made $1 or $2 billion last year.
Yeah.
On a $400,000 a year salary as the president of the United States, which, if you didn't know, the president gets paid a $400,000 a year salary. And he made, I don't remember whether it was $1 or $2 billion. Either way, it doesn't matter. Both are gross numbers. How do you make that much? And how do you also file for bankruptcy? Like, this is all corruption. I just hate how people have been so disheartened and just like brainwashed to not see that happening. It's crazy.
Yeah, and whoever our next president is going to be, I really hope it is someone who has their eye on the ball with that corruption, because we have no idea how deeply ingrained in both the White House and the private sector it's gotten these last couple years. We don't know what access CEOs have been given to back ends of things. I mean, from Doge and Elon Musk in particular, I think he probably still has complete access to the U.S. government systems. There's no way they actually took that away, because I guarantee you they don't know how to take that away from the back doors he built. But
my McDonald's app has stronger security than that. I haven't been able to get into my McDonald's app for years to use my points. Like, because I logged in through Facebook and I changed my Facebook password. It doesn't like it. McDonald's app has a stronger security than the United States government. So by the way, McDonald's, if you're watching this, can you please let me back into my account? I have so many points I would like to use.
They are more than happy to keep those from you.
I know. But no, it's crazy how there's basic things like that that have way more security measures than the United States, most powerful country on earth.
Yeah. Things like that are just one of the many reasons it can be so easy to feel hopeless. And I think that's another thing our next presidential candidate is going to have to think about too, is how to make this not just about what's wrong and what we can do better. And I think one other clip from Ossoff's rally that's going viral that really has people speculating that he could be that next president that could finally get us out of this dark age we're in right now is one clip that really stuck with me too.
I've got 2 little girls at home. Eva's 4 and Lila's 1, and I'm so grateful to this country for the security and the opportunity it affords them. But this isn't the world I want to leave them. Soon enough, they'll learn there's now plastic in human blood and breast milk, that toxic forever chemicals are in half the country's drinking water. We've amassed enough firepower to end the world 1,000 times over, but we can't summon the will to guarantee health care and pre-K. I say all this to say that it's the crushing weakness of our politics against the unmet needs of our people and the massive stakes of our times that's shaking our faith in the future. But Atlanta, I refuse to leave my girls a world as dark and dangerous and cruel as this one threatens to become. When Eva's old enough to ask me why I'd let this happen, I'm determined to answer truthfully that I didn't. I'll tell her how the same year she turned 5, Georgia stood up all together, all at once, and said, enough is enough.
He's such a powerful speaker. I, in 2022, had the privilege to go work on Raphael Warnock's runoff race in Georgia. And we did an event at the University of Georgia, and I got to meet Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock and talk with them, and they signed. I met both of them. They signed the infamous denim jacket, and I've made this joke many, many times, but I still believe it to this day. I was like, the way that like Jon Ossoff looks at you, whether it's one-on-one or in a crowd, the way he talks to you, like I want a man who looks at me and talks to me the way that Jon Ossoff does, and I have one now. But like the way that he speaks to people, he's actually listening. A lot of politicians, I work with a lot of them, they have a face where it looks like they're listening to you, but they're not. Mm-hmm. He takes in that information. And one of the things that I know why he's listening, and that really struck me in that clip, was that he specifically mentioned that there's microplastics in blood and breast milk. I thought that was a very... He shows that he's listening and sees all of the issues with maternal mortality rates and things like that in Georgia, and how they're so much higher in the South and other places, and how these are things that children are around. And, breast milk is something that children consume as they're growing up. That's a very important part of their lives that we don't think about. Yeah. And it's something that's, I shouldn't say we, that people who aren't necessarily mothers don't think about. And I appreciate so much that he's listening, and he kept that speech women-centric because he was talking about his 2 little girls. And that was a point I think was going to go over most people's heads that I
went over mine.
I wanted to call out and say how much I appreciated that, and how you can just tell how much he truly listens and cares about what's going on and where he is and what he's doing in this moment in his career.
Oh, yeah, and he understands the gravity of the moment he's in. And I think part of the reason why is, for anyone who doesn't know, do you know what Jon Ossoff's first job in politics was?
I know you've told me, but I can't remember. We've talked about this on here before, but I can't remember.
He worked, and I can't remember if he was an intern or a young staffer, but he worked in John Lewis's office as a congressman. And I mean, John Lewis was a man who, I think more than anyone else, understood both the gravity of the change that could be made, but also the banality of the actual work it takes to get there. I mean, he was a visionary, but he was a pragmatist. He knew what he had to do. He did the long, hard work. He got beaten to a bloody pulp for it, because that's what it took back then. And now it's about doing that hard work. And I think it's important what he said about when his daughters ask him what he did or why he didn't do more to stop it, and having that drive him forward. And it's interesting because, again, back to the presidential speculation, that sounded like a presidential stump speech. And if I didn't know better, if I had watched it and not known it was a real clip, I would assume that was a clip from a presidential campaign. I mean, it looked just like it, down to the O logo, looked very Obama-esque. But all of this talk actually had Jen Psaki ask Jon Ossoff in a recent interview whether or not he was gonna run for president. And take a look at what he said.
Let me ask you about something your colleague Mark Kelly said this weekend. You may have seen this. For people who haven't, I'll tell you what it is. He was asked by Politico about the potential for an Ossoff-Kelly ticket in 2028, and his response to that question was, quote, "Hey, why'd you put it in that order?" So I guess I'd pose you the same question. How do you feel about a Kelly-Ossoff ticket in 2028?
Jen, let me reiterate. I have zero interest in running for president in 2028, and frankly, zero interest in the 2028 fantasy football right now. These midterms are the whole ball game. So with all due respect, and I appreciate and respect and understand why there's interest in punditry in a presidential election several years away, I don't know that we have a free and fair election in 2028 unless we restore checks and balances in these 2026 midterm elections. This needs to be all of our highest priority and our focus. Get involved. Pitch in money, sign up to knock doors, sign up to make phone calls. If you're feeling angst and outrage at what's happening to our country, take action. Because here in Georgia, early voting opens in 8 weeks.
God, you said 8 weeks until voting opens up. I forgot that it's August. Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I'm at right now. I remember and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna throw up. I don't like that. But anyways,
Glad his eyes on the ball, though.
I'm glad his eyes on the ball. I really like him. I do hope in the future he will consider running. He's someone I would love to support. And I think that he would be a very, very good representation of our country and how we're feeling coming out of whatever the fuck you want to call the last few years of the Trump administration.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I have a couple other thoughts to add. First off, sounds very similar to what a young Barack Obama said when he was asked in 2004 while he was running for Senate whether or not he was going to run for president, and he said a similar thing about being focused on his current race and not wanting to run for president. And
things change in 4 years, you know,
Yeah.
so you never know.
yeah, and there's also the second thing I want to add, the phrasing of zero interest. That does not mean he is not running. He never committed to not running, and he's always been very careful with his phrasing. And what that means at this point is he is 100% interested in maintaining his Senate seat in Georgia and making sure that we also get the Georgia governor's seat, because one of our supporters actually asked, we did a little snap poll quickly on whether or not our supporters think Jon Ossoff should run for president. Quick response overall, people think he should wait until after the midterms to decide, which I 100% agree. But one supporter asked, which is a really good question, who else do the Dems have to run for Senate in Georgia to replace him? And I mean, the answer there is probably Stacey Abrams. But before we get to that, remember that the governor appoints the replacement if the senator becomes president. So we need to win the governor's race.
We need to win the governor's race. But I also want to note, too, that Georgia trusts Jon Ossoff. They trust Jon Ossoff because he's put in the work. He's proven he's put in the work to gain trust of people. So if he were to just leave the Senate, I don't think people would forgive him and Georgia would become deep, deep, deep red again. And there's been so much work to make it not red.
Do you
And
think? You don't think there's a way?
No, not this year. Not for 2028. Absolutely not. They would feel abandoned.
Really, even if, hypothetically, let's game this out. First off, he wins re-election and Trump once again pulls a Georgia voter fraud thing. Number two, then from there, I think he can pretty conceivably give a speech of saying, look, I didn't want to do this. I wanted to stay in Georgia, but everything I've seen has told me that there's no one else, and my daughters are going to ask me, what did I do? And it comes to that. And finally, number three, of course, is that he would have to do it in a way where there is a succession plan in place.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to flip back on sometimes the smartest and the safest thing to do is to stay where you are. And I knocked doors in Georgia. I spoke to so many people while I was there. People are so distrustful there of everything going on. And so if you were to just leave them for a possibility, a small possibility of becoming president versus a growing opportunity every cycle for him to continue to stay as a senator, I don't know why he would leave that so soon. Because he has not been there for very long. He's running for his second term.
Yes. You got to remember, though, if he runs for president after, knock on wood, hopefully, and we'll make sure we do everything to make this happen. If he runs for president after winning this year, that means if he loses either the nomination or the general, he has 4 more years in the Senate before he has to run for re-election again.
But that doesn't gain back the trust from the fact that he would go and choose something else over where he is right now.
But you don't think he could rebuild that trust over 4 years? Look at
how many years did it take for us to flip Georgia blue?
Guess that's a good
many,
point.
many decades, mostly done through the community work of the Black community.
Yeah, I guess it's not John
And
McCain.
why, if he has gained the trust and respect of the Black community in Georgia, I don't know why he would go and ruin that. We cannot forget that he asked them to trust him and they decided to work towards trusting him. Besides, he said he's not interested in running in 2028 anyways. It's a moot point at this point, but
yeah, no, I guess. Either way, one supporter of ours said something that I think we should take to heart, and all Democrats should take to heart, which is that we should, quote, examine the speeches of Jon Ossoff. He ties Trump's corruption and authoritarian tactics to how they impact the middle class very well.
Goes back to how he knows how to not patronize people.
Yeah.
The middle class is used as like a punching bag in politics. I'm going to help you. Oh, I'm not going to help you. You make too much money. You don't make enough money. And we get nothing but the short end of the stick.
Yeah, it's a problem. And I think that whether or not Jon Ossoff chooses to run for president or stay in the Senate where he can help from there, I think that he can do a lot to teach the rest of the Democratic Party how to message and how to stay focused, because he is one of the few Democrats right now who actually I think is spending more of his time attacking Republicans than attacking other Democrats. And we need to see a lot more of that. And he's also, like you said, doing a really good job uplifting voices that otherwise wouldn't be heard.
Yeah, he's very good at uplifting voices that aren't always heard. He's someone who he really wants to truly serve his country and his people. And this morning, Jordan, you sent me this really, really great article that I'm very excited to talk about. I read through the whole thing twice to make sure I caught everything. You go into it and I'll give you my thoughts.
Oh, yeah, and I'm so glad you brought this up, because I truly think that every American, or at least every American who wants anything to do with politics or public service, should read this. It was a piece published in The Atlantic by Julia Curlee, who was a CIA operative and was also the first CIA operative to transition gender while serving in the CIA. From her story, it seems like, she had always known she was born in the wrong body, and her 2 dreams in life were to join the CIA and to be in the right body. And while working in the CIA, one day she decided to be her true self. And up until recently, sounds like the CIA was incredibly accepting about that, which I kind of love.
Yeah, she decided to show up to work one day and she had changed her name to Julia. And when she walked in and scanned her badge, they said, "Good morning, ma'am. How are you today?" And it makes the point that if someone asks you to call them something else, it's not hard to change that. You don't need to make a big deal about it.
Also, I think it was just that the security guard saw that she was dressed like a woman and said, "Good morning, ma'am." Is that so hard?
It's that simple. It's that simple.
Is that so hard? And do you remember, actually, in the article, she tells us that she was the anonymous author of a 2017 article talking about how if you're trans, there's a place in the CIA for you. And it was really heartwarming to hear that apparently recruits had gone up to her saying, this article inspired them to join, not knowing she was the author. And one other thing I will point out, which similarly, I know everyone makes fun of the Lockheed Martin Pride Parade floats and all that, but one of the best ways to make sure that your intelligence operatives aren't susceptible to blackmail is to let them be who they are, because why is anyone going to be able to threaten her and say, "We'll tell everyone you're trans if you don't do what we say," if she can say, so what? They already know I'm trans anyway.
Yeah, she said that through all the transitions of, she worked under 4 different presidents.
Yeah.
And in the very end of the article, she mentioned she was about to send her Pride email, says, Happy Pride Month, you're not alone. And she realized she was risking her safety, her family's safety, her family's health insurance, her job. And she didn't send the email and was like, I need to leave. There's a lot that led up into that. And the name of the article is called The Wrong Kind of American, which I think is a very, very powerful sentence and statement that I feel like a lot of people will choose to resonate with that in different ways of, I feel like we feel like the only type of American that you should be is a free American, but that's not what's happening at this point. And there are people who are the wrong kinds of Americans, which is contradictory based off of our Constitution stuff, but we don't need to get into that. It was a very, very powerful article. And one day, Julia was told that she was going to start a tour for the current vice president at the time, which was Mike Pence.
Yeah,
and
that was powerful.
It was powerful. And she told him that he had treated her with some of the most respect that she's ever received and experienced in her life. And his response was, I'm glad I passed the test. This is not to say that Mike Pence has not said and done horrible things to the LGBTQ plus community, but it does show that it's so easy to be kind to people.
Yeah.
And that
it shows that I think in a lot of stuff with a lot of these issues and whether or not people are right or wrong it all comes down to propaganda. And at the end of the day, a good person is going to see, or someone who believes they are a good person is going to see another person and be a good person to them. I mean, I don't know if there's a similar story going around right now because of this article from George W. Bush when he was in the White House. And this is early 2000s, not a great time for the LGBTQ community. But anyway, apparently there was a Yale Law School reunion that he was hosting at the White House, and one of his classmates had transitioned, and she introduced herself to the president and said, you remember me as so-and-so, whatever her dead name was. And without missing a beat, then President Bush responded, and now you've come back as yourself.
I think, how do I want to say this? You know how a lot of people are judgmental about a certain group of people, it could be any group of people until they've actually met them or you come face to face with something. There is this level of human empathy that I think people forget that we have, that in that moment, it doesn't matter. It's not ruining your life. It's not changing your life that someone has come out as queer in one way or another. That's not impacting your life. But what you say back to them will entirely impact their life. It should... I know this phrase is a little controversial, but it should not matter to you how someone else lives their life.
Yeah.
You should care that they want to live their life in the way they want to, but it shouldn't matter to you that someone is trans or gay or non-binary or whatever. It should not matter to you. It should not matter to you, but you should care about their life. And
it shouldn't hurt you.
It shouldn't hurt you.
Yeah, it shouldn't negatively impact you. It shouldn't make your life worse. And if it does, there's something you need to have checked out in your own head about what's really bothering you. Because, by the way, and I don't say that to spite anyone who feels this way, because there's very real pain, there's very real trauma, and there are very real problems in this country that are hurting all Americans except the billionaires who are causing them. And that's where we need to be focusing our energy. And finally, I think one finer point I want to put on this too is that the internet has made all of this so much worse, and it has stripped away that human empathy. And when everyone's hiding behind a screen, that empathy doesn't carry through. No matter how touched you feel about a TikTok or whatever you see, that's not empathy. That's you seeing yourself and whatever's on the screen. And I think we should point out that nobody cared about Julia's status as a trans woman in the CIA until Laura Loomer posted about it online. Well into the second Trump administration, nobody cared that there was a trans woman in the CIA, because like they said when they were giving that tour, the presidential daily briefers are their best analysts, and she was one of their best.
If you're good at your job, it shouldn't matter. And again, I want to remind you that Julia Curlee served under 4 different presidents. She served under George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump's first term, and Joe Biden, and very beginning of Trump's second term until They banned her from using all of the bathrooms. Her passport had to have an M put on it for sex instead of F. And she wasn't allowed to say anything about herself. She started feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, and
all because she was being herself
yeah,
as a woman.
yeah.
God forbid.
God, no. And it was, I mean, the way that she felt that she was serving her country, not only by staying in the CIA, but by asking that her colleagues not cover for her and almost forcing the issue. I mean, I think she caps it off well when she says that she served her country by staying anonymously, and now she's serving her country by speaking out, because we do need to hear from those voices. I mean, a CIA analyst who's dealing with that, those are the people we should be hearing from, not, and I hate to say, I mean, because we're in this position, but we also, I think, you and I see ourselves as aggregators of other people's voices instead of driving the conversation with our own. But we really need to be finding those voices that are not being platformed. And if you're watching this, if you have a unique perspective on anything that's going on in this country, in our party, in the other party, whatever it is, let us know in the comments. Let us know in our focus group. You can let us know anonymously if you want the information out there, but you can't, for some reason, put your own face to it. We'd love to be your mouthpiece.
Yeah, and when we say anonymous, we mean if you say that you want to be anonymous, when your opinion gets to us, we don't get your name, your email, phone. We don't get any of that. We just get your opinion, nothing else. So it's truly anonymous, even on our end. We won't know, and we would appreciate your perspective if you want to share it. It's a lot of people are under attack right now for a lot of different things, and we're here to try and platform voices in the ways that we can and to continue to fight against the fascist regime that is running our country.
Yeah. And we couldn't do any of it without your voices. We do this for you. We're here because of you, and we appreciate you more than you could ever know. And we look forward to continuing this journey with you.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you again.